All right, welcome to another edition of our Friday football showcase. Corey Geiger, Jason Dombach joining you. Penn State plays at Nebraska Saturday morning, Saturday early afternoon. JD, as we tape this, I believe Penn State will play. I believe they're already flying to Nebraska, and let's hope, cross our fingers, nothing happens with any, COVID testing between now and then after the Maryland situation. But here we are. We're 4 weeks into this, and Penn State is still playing. We think they're going to play. There are a lot of teams around the country that are not playing right now.
Yeah, Pitt being one of them. They had a COVID situation, so their game won't take place. Some big games around the country. Alabama, LSU was one we were all looking forward to. So, yeah, like we've talked about the last few weeks, Corey, and I know it's hard to make heads or tails of what's happening with this season, but you're happy when your team gets to Saturday and has an opportunity to play. And if you're a Penn State fan, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing, the way this season has gone, but happy to see them out there. And as, like you said, as of taping right now, they're playing against Nebraska tomorrow at noon.
And again, hopefully this will not be the case, but it really wouldn't surprise anybody if we get to the game time tomorrow and there's an announcement that 1, 2, or more Penn State players may not be able to play. Again, I don't know. I don't have any inside information on it, but we need to be prepared for that to maybe start happening and how that could impact games. Because what JD and I are going to do right now, we're going to break down the football of Penn State versus Nebraska. And that is assuming that everybody is playing on both teams. So we'll do that. And here's the thing, Jason, I just look at this game with Penn State being 0-3, an emotional week with the Journey Brown news, off the field issues just have really been tough for this team. But hey, they had better be ready to play football, because you know what? Nebraska is not going to be feeling sorry for Penn State. Nebraska is in a world of hurt of its own. They got a lot of problems. Scott Frost is trying to save his job. That program has really just become a nightmare. So no matter what we think about Penn State, Nebraska's going to get out there and throw everything at them, including the kitchen sink. It's not going to be any kind of situation where these off the field problems that Penn State have had over the week, they better get over that stuff very quickly.
Well, no doubt. And, these 11 a.m. Central Time starts that you have occasionally in the Big Ten are never easy to get ready for. But Nebraska is more used to it than Penn State is, for sure. I mean, a lot of times they're playing these 11 a.m. games. And you said it, they're 0-2. They hired Scott Frost 2 years ago to resurrect the program. And we understood what last season was going to be at Nebraska. But I think certainly there was hope from the Cornhusker fan base that they would show some signs of climbing out of the hole that they've been in. And through 2 games, they have not. And so, they're looking at this wounded Penn State team as a great opportunity to get their signature win. So, you really have 2 programs that are in desperate need of a win. And let's not underestimate how desperate Nebraska is, too.
Okay, now I'll say this. Before the Journey Brown news broke, I was going to pick Nebraska to win this game. I think that Penn State just has a lot of issues in terms of buy-in. All of the issues that we saw against Maryland, they're still there. And I think with the Journey Brown news, I switched. I'm going to go Penn State. I'll go ahead and give my score now. I'm going to go Penn State 30-24. And I switched because I do trust, Jason, that there is good character and heart in the Penn State program. And when they got embarrassed like they did last week, it had to serve as a wake-up call. Now, again, I was still going to pick Nebraska, but I think there will be enough of an emotional tied with the Journey Brown news. Look, one or two things is going to happen. Either Penn State's going to go out there and get embarrassed again and be 0-4, or they're going to win an inspired win for Journey Brown, because that's what we'll hear, I'm sure, after the game. I think it's going to be the latter, because I think there is a lot of character within this program, and we're going to see it this week.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you need every reason to be able to dig down and play better, really, on both sides of the ball. Maybe that will be, sort of the motivating factor to play for, Journey. I suspect, though, that the team has had a good inkling
Right.
before the news came out to the public that this was the case with him. So
Let me throw out real quick, because we don't know the timeline for sure. J1 Sider said on a conference call yesterday, okay, and I'm just trying to put together a timeline here. He said Journey had an appointment last Friday. Okay, so Journey found out this news in September. And I think you're right. I think the team probably knew about it a lot of this time. And I don't know for sure. I did not get to ask J1 Sider, so I could be way off here. But he said that Journey had an appointment last Friday. If indeed it's possible that's when he found out and it was a finality, could that have had some impact on the complete listlessness that we saw the next day against Maryland? Maybe that's a reach. I don't know. But last week was just such an aberration for the Penn State football program, JD. You just never see the line show up and not really give their full effort and play as hard. So again, maybe that's a reach. I don't know. But you're to your point, these players have probably known this was a possibility for a long time. I just truly wonder when they found out the finality of it.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And as we've talked about all along, the teams that are going to be successful in this college football environment this year, you've got to think are the ones that can block out the distractions, can block out the fact that there are no fans, can deal with the fact that you're testing every day. Let's not underestimate what these athletes have to do just to get on the football field, just to practice, let alone play. So, there are a significant number of distractions that they've been dealing with. And, it's clear this year, and you can put the blame on the coaches, you can put the blame wherever you want. It's obvious that whatever's happening around the Penn State football program, they just have not been focused on game day. And it's a shame. Now, again, last week was one of those examples where who knows what happened. I mean, that was like blink and you know it, a Maryland program that's trying to find its way is up big, and the game was over early. Who would have ever thought that would be the case? So, it's hard to say what factors are playing in right now. Maybe Penn State's just clearly they're not as good as we thought they would be, the 8th ranked team in the country when they started play. Now it's just time to focus on football tomorrow and just get that first win. That's really all they can worry about.
Right. That's one thing we do try to focus on is just the football. Clearly there is not as much talent on this Penn State football team and ready to play as we may have thought. So that is a key component. And I'm going to reverse engineer what you said earlier about, the fans and everything. The players that can get themselves motivated. I'm wondering if you're a program that's used to playing in front of 100,000 people, if that has even more impact on Penn State from a negative standpoint, because how much of your energy do you get from that crowd each and every week? You come to Penn State for that. And if you're not getting it, we're not talking Indiana here, Northwestern, Maryland. I think somebody pointed out this week, maybe Dave Jones from Penn Live, those programs are used to playing in front of small crowds anyway. If You're a Penn State and you're used to playing in front of 100,000 people, what percentage of your motivation and energy every Saturday come from that crowd? Is it fair to say it's 25, 33%? I mean, you get fired up because 100,000. And then when you don't have that, it's probably just such a gigantic shock to the system.
Yeah, and I would think that would probably explain a little bit of a listless start last week against Maryland, you would think. I mean, who knows? But I think it's one possible explanation. But, I've read enough and listened to enough interviews from former players, whether it be college or NFL, and enough of these guys have said, look, the crowd's a huge thing at the beginning of the game. It can be really on your side if you're the home team and you need to sort of dig down deep in a situation like on a 4th down late in the game or to get the game started. But the majority of them will tell you that, when you're in the middle of the game, it's something you're not focused on. You sort of block it out. So I think when you talk about starting the game and maybe important situations, that's right, what really comes into play.
But when you're down 14-0 and 21-0, and you need the crowd to help get you back in it, that's what you can't do, because Penn State didn't have that. And even down 21-0, I thought they were going to get back in that game. I just thought Maryland's defense was ripe for the picking. But again, when you don't have that crowd, you just never know. And this gets us to, we'll close with this, with Sean Clifford and the offense. I think Sean Clifford has had big problems this year. The 2 interceptions at Indiana put the team in a hole. The overthrows in the first half against Maryland, to me, put the team in a hole. It's a big, big deal to switch starting quarterbacks. There's been some talk about this week, would James Franklin play Will Levis? He's not going to start. Sean Clifford's going to start. And if he plays well, then all that talk will go out the window. If Sean Clifford doesn't play well to start the game tomorrow, JD, you got to make a change. I mean, you got to find out what the other guy can do, because you're 0-3. I mean, if Sean Clifford comes out and throws an interception or so in the first quarter, and the offense, which has been awful in the first half, if they stumble again, why would you not make a change?
Well, I think you owe it to your team, and I think you owe it to your fan base to at least explore that opportunity, and see what he can do. I still believe in Sean Clifford. I mean, I think he's certainly had a bad patch to begin the year, to say the least. Things have just not clicked offensively for Penn State, and there's a myriad of reasons for that you've documented on the site and everybody has talked about. But yeah, I think you do owe it to your team and the players in uniform on that sideline and the coaches to at least explore that opportunity. And if Levis can give you the spark, maybe it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to have to, or he's going to take over the starting job the rest of the way, but maybe he just gives you that spark in that game that can help you win that first game. So, I'm not a big fan of seeing rotating quarterbacks, but this is a different situation. It's justified. If he doesn't get off to a good start, then I think seeing what Levis can do is going to be really important.
We're going to see both Nebraska quarterbacks tomorrow. They've struggled throwing the ball, but Nebraska can run the ball. That is a key for this game. Nebraska can run the ball. Can they run it inside the red zone and score touchdowns? We'll see. Again, I'm based on the heart and character that I assume this Penn State team has, JD. I'm going 30-24 Penn State. I can see Nebraska winning this game and the fan base going ballistic, but I'm going to give Penn State the benefit of the doubt with my pick.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's again, Nebraska is in one of those situations where their backs are really up against the wall. I feel good about Penn State going into Nebraska tomorrow. I think they're going to win a tight game, somewhere in the 20-17 range, I think is the way it'll turn out. But man, I haven't been right, I don't think, on one prediction so far this year. So I'm not super confident about that. But look, here's the thing. I really think the defense has to play better. They played well to begin that Indiana game. You saw what happened at the end of that game. And then last week, that was just a big disappointment. I mean, I know you talked about the offense, but the defense needs to come out and make some plays. And I don't know what that's going to mean or what needs to exactly happen, but clearly they need a much better effort defensively tomorrow.
All right, let's switch gears to the NFL and the Steelers. At this point, we expect Ben Roethlisberger to play. No indication given that he would not. But it just goes to show that when your quarterback, and again, we may face this in college football as well, when your quarterback is facing questions, especially a Hall of Fame quarterback, and if there's anybody out there that doubts Big Ben's a Hall of Fame quarterback, you're just nuts. You're nuts. The guy's going to the Hall of Fame. All right, and when a quarterback of that level, if there's questions about it, that's the most important position in all of sports, JD. So if Ben plays against the Bengals, I'm sure we feel good about it. If he doesn't play against the Bengals, I think they could lose that game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, again, you hope that there's no way to predict this. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger just needs to pass his tests. He's not going to get any practice time really on the field. Does that matter for some quarterbacks? Yes. For Ben Roethlisberger, as he's shown throughout his career, not really. He's a guy that can kind of just come out cold and play and be just fine. This is an interesting game. The Steelers clearly need to have a complete effort. We haven't really seen that. They're winning games. They won 3 straight road games. Let's not minimize that. I know things didn't look great against Dallas last week, but it was the back end of a 3-game road trip, essentially, in which they won all three. That happens less than 35% of the time in the NFL. So it doesn't happen very often for a team to go on the road and win three straight games. It was not a great performance, but they pulled it out. And now you got a Cincinnati team that comes in, Joe Burrow, got to get pressure on him. They're not going to have Joe Mixon, it doesn't look like, not practicing as we tape this on Friday. So that's an important factor because the Steelers have got to get back to dominating against the run. And that's something they have not done very well, and they've not pressured quarterbacks very well the last few weeks. So it's going to be important for them to get a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow. If they can do that, I think they win. Whether Ben plays well, doesn't play at all, I think they still are able to win that game.
Bigger threat for the long haul in the AFC North, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, or Baker Mayfield and the Browns? 3, 4, 5 years down the road, which organization is challenging the Steelers and the Ravens more?
Well, I that's a tough one because neither of them have proven to be solid organizations, right? The Bengals at least have put it together. They've been a playoff team in our recent memory. But to me, it's a no-brainer. It's Joe Burrow. I mean, if you watch him play, the guy is a very good passer. He fits what the NFL has become. He can move around enough. He's mobile enough to move the sticks and move the pocket and make the throws. But when you look at Burrow and you look at, forget AJ Green, I mean, he'll be gone, but guys like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and Joe Mixon in the running back position, I think still has a few good years left. I think this could be a really good team and potentially, banging on the playoff door as early as next year. As far as the Browns go, I don't like what I see out of Baker Mayfield. I really don't. I didn't love that pick first overall, to be honest. I do love the fact that they want to be a run-first team, and they do get Nick Chubb back. So the Chubb-Hunt combination is as dynamic as anybody in the NFL. But if you're talking about long-term, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I like the Bengals prospects an awful lot more.
We're comparing the Bengals and the Browns. I mean, that's a tough call, man. But hey, look, that's what the Steelers and the Ravens are going to have to deal with in the coming years. I do agree with you on Joe Burrow. In a one-off situation, I'll take him over Baker Mayfield. That Browns roster has talent. That Browns roster, if they weren't the Cleveland Browns and they had good leadership and you trusted what they were doing, there are a lot of NFL teams that would like that Browns roster.
Oh, they have they're going to make the playoffs this year. I mean, I think they will. They'll be 10-6, 9-7. Again, they're going to be a run-first identity. But again, it's a quarterback league, Corey. And at some point down the road, Baker Mayfield's got to win them some football games. And getting back to your original question, long term, who do you like more, Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow? I think Joe Burrow is more of a 2020, 2021 NFL quarterback by far than Baker Mayfield. Baker's got a few years experience on him, and this year it's going to pay off. But down the road, I really like Joe Burrow. He has really surprised me. I mean, I thought he'd be a good quarterback, but he stepped in right away and is playing very, very well. Same with Justin Herbert in LA. Tua, we'll find out a little bit more here in the next few weeks. But these guys that are coming into the league right now are playing very, very well. And it's exciting to see these young quarterbacks come in and play as well as they have. And it makes you think, what are the Steelers going to do? Ben Roethlisberger clearly isn't going to play forever. We know Mason Rudolph's not the answer. When do they address that in the draft? How are they going to address that? That's going to be really fascinating because if you look at 5 years from now at a division with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, we'll see what happens with Mayfield. I don't believe that he's going to be in that caliber of quarterback. How do the Steelers address that moving forward? That's going to be fascinating.
All right. Good stuff as always. Jason Dombach, appreciate the time. Hopefully everybody gets to watch some good football. Hopefully Penn State will play Nebraska. And then hopefully Ben can be able to play this weekend. That's our Friday football showcase again. Enjoy your weekend, folks.